Samantha, I saw your question before we get started. There is a way. So if you just, so this call is open to any Avio users and teams that they're working with. So you can just send them to
Okay.
update.obv.io. And if they've never registered to come to this meeting, it'll take them to a little sign up page where they can put in first name, last name, email, and then it will pop them onto the dashboard and they can join the call.
Okay, I was hoping so. I wasn't sure if she'd have to watch through YouTube, but that's awesome, Muddy. Thank you. I'm going to invite her right now. Awesome.
And now I see that Heather also answered that in the chat. So, and Heather, I think update.obv.io redirects to the sign up page by default.
It will if they don't have an account. It should, but
Cool.
I just dropped it in there to do it.
Perfect.
Hello. Yeah, thanks. Hello, everyone. Just juggling a couple of things here at the moment, playing around with some things, but it's nice to see you. Hello, Heather. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Grant?
I'm good. I'm good. Cool. Now, have we got? I think we've got familiar faces here at the moment. You can place your questions in the ask a question button on the dashboard that you came to. Have we got any questions there yet, Heather?
Yeah, we do. We have one from Samantha. She has a tech check masterclass scheduled for this Sunday and would love to get our feedback and along the way be able to ask some questions. Is that possible?
Yeah, of course. Hey, Samantha.
Hello. My tech partner here is going to sign on. So it might take her just
Okay,
a
great.
moment. Do you mind if take another few questions before?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I love it. Thank
No
you.
problems at all. I'll come back.
Appreciate it.
Okay. What else we got, Heather?
So we have one from Carol. I'm not sure if you would be able to answer this, and I don't see Carol on the call, but it has to do with the PAG and OB. I think that would be more of a question that Blue could attest to once he gets on, or if he
Yes.
gets on.
Yeah. Yeah. And while some of those questions have been covered a little bit here, it is an extension of LEAP, of the LEAP program, not so much Obvio. So yeah, agreed, Muddy. Be a good one for the LEAP call. So was there more?
No, that was the only one so far
That's the only one.
besides Samantha's.
Okay. All right. Has anyone else got any other questions? Things that you're wrestling with? Are we nearly there, Samantha? Is that what you're about to say?
I have some, if no one else has any that are unrelated to my tech friend. But I do
Yeah,
not want to
okay.
hog the whole thing. So please, everyone else, I will bend his
That's all
ear.
right. Yeah, no,
Okay.
go for it. That's fine.
Okay.
There's plenty
All
of
right. A
time.
couple little details then. Where do I start? Oh, the times. What I'm planning to do is we're going to work from a clone of the dashboard that Heather and her team set up for me. This clone
Okay.
is going to be just for the master class, and then we're going to keep the 3-day event separate, just so we keep the analytics like you told me about last week. So what I did is
Okay.
I went into my account, cloned our event, and I see Faith there. Hey, Faith. So that's all set there, but then I'm updating it a little bit, like looking at the menus and just trying to get it to look right to me. One of my biggest questions is how do I get I have a workbook that I would like people to be able to download from the dashboard. So it's there So I've gone in, I created workbook. Can I show my screen?
Yeah.
Would
Yeah.
that be okay?
Please.
Okay, let's do that. That'd probably
Yeah.
be a lot easier. Send request. Okay, just requested that.
Okay.
All right, and here we are. Awesome. Okay, so here's our thing here. So download the workbook. When I go into preview,
Okay.
I'm not, it's like it's kicking me out. I can't figure out how to download a workbook in there. But I know you
Yeah.
know how.
Okay. Yeah. So where that button is. So if you go back to the to that part.
Dashboard. Like here?
So now, yeah, and if we look at the gear, click on the gear button there. Let's just have a look. Okay. So yeah, okay. So the trick is there that that's linked to a file on your computer, which is not that's not going to work.
Right.
So what we want to do, we've got a little bit of a workaround because generally our resources we don't put in the main navigation buttons at the top.
Okay.
But there's no reason why you can't, right? So what you're going to do is if we go down to the resources section, so you can click out of that for a moment.
Okay.
Yep. And then you go further down on this page on the dashboard editor.
Okay.
So just further down. So not in that menu.
Okay.
So if you just scroll on the page that the page that you're already on.
Oh, this one? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So we're going to go down further.
Okay. Add section?
Yeah, so see that add resource. You've got an add resource button there.
I see add resource. Yep, I see it. Okay.
Yep. And so now we're probably not seeing it, but you can select. I wonder if your
it's not
screen's
not
nothing.
highlighting.
You're not seeing anything?
No.
Okay. Can you zoom out? It does seem like we're zoomed in quite a fair way. So can you with
like that?
Are you? Yeah.
Oh, here we are. I see resources down here in the black.
Yeah, you've got that. Now these are just links that have been created, as in they're just sort of placeholders for you.
Okay.
But essentially what we're going to do is we're going to create a resource in the resource section. And then we can either decide to leave it there and to have it available, or we're going to hide it. But once we've created that resource and uploaded the PDF to the dashboard, we can then use that link and use that as the direct link for downloading the resource in the button at the top. All right. So if you click on one of those resource buttons there.
The gear.
Yep.
Okay.
That's it. Yep. And now you see you've got the option for a file or a link. So it's currently selected to file. If you click that where it says, so now, just down below it says drop a file here or click to upload. If you just
here we go. Okay. Yep.
If you click that,
I can do that. I'll just
and
go
then
grab
you
something random. Okay.
Find your file.
Let's just go
You
here.
can do a placeholder if you want, or if it's easy enough.
I have many at the ready. Okay, so that is
Great.
there.
Good. And now if you just change the name just above there a little bit, it says name resource. Maybe give that a name that makes sense.
Okay, PDF workbook. I'll just say workbook.
Great.
Got it. Okay. Test.
Okay.
All right. Oops.
Great.
Okay.
So see that's now created. That's a button that's created there.
Yeah.
And that will show at the moment, but you could set the visibility to not be there. But what we're going to do, we're still doing a little bit of a workaround to make this work.
Sure.
So what we want to do now is we want to look at this page as an attendee so that we can see it. So if you go to your attendees,
click on that, or do I click on something?
Yep. You can click on that. Yep.
Okay.
And then add an attendee. And this
Okay.
can literally just be anything. Yeah, it's fine. It can
Okay.
be test@test.com or whatever. You just need an email address in there as
Got it.
well. Great. Save
Okay.
that. Now click on that. Click
Check
on the
in.
name. Nope.
Oh, okay.
Well, you may need to do this because you've got tech check enabled, right?
Okay.
But let's just have a look. So if you go to the see that little person icon there,
Mm-hmm.
if you click that, that's going to open a new tab, logging in as them,
Okay.
and we're probably going to see. All right.
Check in. Okay.
So let's cover this off, right? At the
Mhm.
moment, you've got the password step enabled. Tell me, how are people going to get their login link? How are you sending that to them?
That is one of my questions to ask you later.
Okay, good. Okay. Tell me the workflow currently for people that have signed up or are registering for this event. How's
Yes,
that?
this is a test, so I don't really have a workflow, but what my intention is to beg my friends to show up, and then once they are
Okay.
willing to show up, then I'm going to just send them a link to the this magic link that I am understanding that's the term, and that'll just be via email.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, terminology on that. The magic link. Be right. I've got there's an event that's happening at the moment.
Okay.
That I have to help out with, or at least keep an eye on.
Sure.
So I may be slightly distracted, which is
No
okay.
problem.
And let me know if you want me to jump in at all.
No worries. Thanks, Muddy. So the magic link, we tend to use the term magic link as something that has a token in it, which is a unique link that's sent to each of the attendees. So
Okay.
each attendee gets a different link that has a longer token in it, which logs them in automatically, right?
Got it.
Which is essentially what we have just opened, and what we're looking at right now is the magic link for that test user or that test attendee.
Okay.
So if the process is that you're getting, and because I'm assuming it's a test event, it's obviously a free event, and you're asking anyone just to test this out.
Yeah.
There are other ways. There's the sign up feature as well in Obvio that people can use, that just has a simple form that's first name, last name, email, and then they join, right?
Okay.
And so you may be able to use that for this test to save the step of having to create the user and send an email out to all the people. And so that might work better for you.
That'd be awesome. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we can look at that. But what
Okay.
we're going to do is just go back in the previous tab at the top there, go back to Obvio.
Okay.
We want to turn, so you're going to go to the check-in on the left menu. Yep, at the top there, there's check-in.
Over this. Oh, sorry. So back
Over
in
to
here.
the left, in the left menu. Sorry,
Oh,
I can
okay.
use better
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah, click on that. Yep, and password. Now we would generally disable this step, right? Because really the use case for passwords is where you get people to set a password, and then they come to the generic login link, they put their email in and they put their password in, and then they get to the dashboard. The use case for this the use cases for this are diminishing because we've got so many easy ways of getting out that magic link, and it's a far nicer experience for people.
That's what I want.
When we
Okay.
started,
Mhm.
this was used more. So we're just going to keep that off.
Okay.
While we're here, we're just going to check. Are you doing a waiver step? Are you using that at all? Okay, so you've got it on, and you do have a waiver there, and that's what your intention is to have a waiver, or
Nope.
nope? Okay,
I will happily
so
get rid of that for this one.
yeah, so
Okay.
you can at the top left there's enable. You can disable that,
Okay.
and so we call that the waiver step. It is a little bit broader than just a waiver, in that you see how on that. I'm just covering it because we're looking at it. Other people are looking at this. There is that option there that says form enabled. And so just to keep in the back of your mind, there is the ability to create a kind of like an intake form, right?
Got
and so you
it.
can create a form, and you can collect some data before they get to the dashboard, and that they must go through this step to be able to get to the dashboard. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
Okay.
Yes, you can have a signed waiver, and often on our larger events, we're using that as a release, like as a media release, that we are able to use the recordings on social media, et cetera, et cetera. And now I make it really clear that you really must get legal advice and have an attorney to work through that if you are doing that waiver step. But that was the purpose of it. We then created the option for you to turn off a waiver and just have a form, and sometimes you can collect certain data that you might want to. That's what that waiver step's for. Okay.
Would that be wise then if I just had like an open call to the masterclass, so then I can get a little more information, like where did you find me, that kind of thing? Is that the use case?
You can totally use it for that. Yes.
Okay.
And one of the advantages of that is that you're not asking that at registration point or sign up point. You're asking it at the point that they're coming to join the event. And so that's nice. And for them to actually access the event, you can get some of that data.
Okay.
Now, I do feel sometimes that when we gatekeep our event with certain questions, I think it challenges the integrity of that data. And I know, because of my experience looking at forms like that, I often hit the first option on every one of those things, and then I get through, and it's like, and so then that puts question on your data anyway. But there is certain use cases that we've used that for that work really, really well. One of those has been like income bracket, and we ask people age bracket and income bracket, and now we're just some basic demographics are really handy, that we can cross-reference that in our event. Anyway, so that's what the waiver step can be used for. So the third step in check-in is tech check, and I think you're interested in using that too, right?
Yes. So Faith, who has joined us here, she will be helping me on the back end for checking people into the paid event. And so we're just doing this run through on Sunday just to get a good idea. But it's definitely going to be different than the paid event. That will have more of a gatekeeper. That will also have join us the night before to check in to make sure your tech is working. Right. Kind of like what I experienced through LEAP and through Dr. Kelly, Kelly Rutley. I just attended her event, and that's what gave me the idea of the workbook. But yes, as far as tech check, this one, it's we want to make it as simple on the participant side as possible, but allow us to see what it looks like from the back end.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Excellent. Okay. And so the general process of tech check, as you have experienced as an attendee, is that before getting to the dashboard, your attendee is getting to a page that's saying, we're going to do a little tech check now. We're going to go into a Zoom meeting and check that your audio and video and things are working well. Yes. And so particularly for events that are using breakout rooms, and or are doing lots of interaction where you're wanting to talk with people and they're talking back to you and things like that, then doing tech check is a really great feature to do. What we found is that when we first started doing tech check at the start of COVID, lots of people were, it was the first time they'd installed Zoom. It's the first time they're getting their camera and, things going. They weren't familiar with it. And so us knowing that everyone was working and they could hear okay and that all of that was working well was a real advantage to us getting the event going. But what's happened is the reason that we continue to do tech check in a world where the number of people who haven't used Zoom is decreasing, and are familiar with their camera setups and microphone setups. What we have found is that personal human touch is still a huge reason to do this, and it's a personal touch on that registration process. It's like coming and picking up your lanyard, your credentials, and so that's why. Now, I'm preaching to the converted, obviously, because you clearly want to be able to do it in your event. Just for the benefit of others listening, it's the idea of the why we would do the tech check. So that's what the process is. From an attendee's point of view, they go into another Zoom, they meet someone. Once they're happy, then the screen behind, as in the browser behind Zoom, has moved onto the dashboard, and away you go. They leave Zoom, and now generally they'll see the dashboard behind Zoom because now Zoom's closed. That's what the attendee experience is. From a back end point of view, the process is that you have someone sitting in that tech check room, and they have the Obvio admins open, and they can see people's that are in their room, and they click check in. When they hit check in, they then that will then trigger it so that the attendee then goes to the dashboard and is checked in.
Got it.
So in order to do that, you need to have a Zoom area set up for tech check. So I'm assuming you may not have that yet. If you just click in the middle of the screen there, it says pick an area.
Oh, yes.
In the middle of the screen. Yep. Okay. So you have got a tech check room. So you're going to click on that one. That means that you have set up the Zoom area for check-in, which is great.
Okay.
And that's great. You've got all that there, and complete my check-in. That's great. And so that's what the attendee will see.
Okay.
We've got that enabled at the moment. So that's good. We're covering off a couple of things at the same time. If we go now to Zoom areas.
Okay. Up here. This area,
sorry,
or Zoom areas, got it.
Yes. Yeah. In the left.
And I would like to go on record. The only reason I have any of this, just all of you leapers that are watching and maybe haven't sent your information to Heather to get it set up for you, do that, because there's no way on earth that I would have all of this set up had she not done it for me. So thank you, Heather. But yes, we are in there.
Great. So now, click on that one, the check-in tech check.
Check. Okay.
Great. And then you're going to go down a little bit more and click on that one button.
Got it. Okay.
And this is where you would see when people are joining your tech check room, where it says attendees, you'll see the attendee list of the people. Yeah. So your technician, whoever, or the person who's running tech check for you is going to come to this screen. They're going to click open room. They're going to start it. That's going to launch Zoom. And we're going to make sure the area is open. There's a couple of little things, little tricks there. And then when people start joining, you're going to see a list of their names in that where it says attendees with a little button that says check-in.
Okay.
And that's how they will check in, right? So so it's always a little tricky for us demonstrating it properly in this sort of environment, because you need to have sort of multiple Zoom meetings going and
Sure.
and that sort of thing. But before you do some testing, the ideal is for you to have your team, the person who's going to run this, to have this room open, and then to have another device that is simulating having a test user coming in and just testing that whole process and making sure that that's all working.
Okay.
So that's what I would suggest that you do. Okay. This process has as I've outlined, that's how it'll work. If in this instance, what we're going to do is we're going to just manually trigger that test user. We're going to check them in, right? And you can do that without having the tech check room open, things like that. Okay. So if you go back to attendees and go to that test user, we should see a big check-in button.
Yep.
So yeah, right there. Yeah, if you hit check-in, what that's going to do is move them. We might still be on the password step at the moment. So if you go to the tab, the right-hand tab, to where we are, so right at the top of the screen, the browser tabs.
Browser tabs right up here.
Yep, and go to that test. See where it says test. Further up again, right at the tab at the top. Keep going.
Oh, at the very top here. Got it. Okay,
there we
here.
go. Thank you. Yep.
Got it.
Yep. There you go. So that updated when we turned off the password step.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
And then we just click the button to say check in, and it's now taken them to the dashboard.
Okay. Right? Got it.
And so now every time that this person was sent their magic link, they would come straight to the dashboard because they've now completed the check-in. We disabled password and waiver, so the only step was the tech check, and because we clicked check-in for them, they're now straight in. So now what we're going to do is come back to that other process that we were working on, and that's getting the resource link. So if we go down on this page, you stay on that page.
Oh, got it.
Stay down on that. Yep. Go right down to where you did that test resource at the bottom.
Oh, at the bottom. Yep. Okay. Sorry, everyone. I'm going to fly down there. Here we go. I believe it's that one. Workbook test. Yeah. See, this is not your first rodeo. You need to name it.
There you go. Now you could right click on that.
Okay.
And copy link address.
Copy link address. Okay.
There we go. And now let's go back to the dashboard editor.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So then design in the left-hand menu. Yep.
Okay. Go here.
So this is just a little bit of a workaround. Yep. And now we're going to click on that.
I get it. I pick it up. I'm picking it up.
And now, Link, you can smell what I'm stepping in.
I can totally. All right. Do I put it in here where URL is?
You do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So we're going to paste that bad boy and do save. And then.
And now that will,
I go back
here. The link, you can try it. Yeah.
Okay.
And you'll give that a bit of time to update.
Okay.
You could try refresh and we'll see. But you'll know.
You did it.
There you go. There you go.
That's proprietary, so I'll get rid of that. Okay. Oh, I love it. Okay. I can do that again.
So, yes. And so now you've got the option to just hide that button at the bottom if you don't want to have that.
Just about to do that. Yep. I'm going to slide down. Sorry, everyone.
You could just disable it if you want. So, yep.
Like that? Okay.
There you go.
And then do the same for the other two that I'm not going to have?
Exactly. Whatever you want to do. And in fact, another way of doing this is that you can create a resource section. And and then you can create all of your buttons that you've got for your PDFs, and then you just hide the whole section. You don't have to turn off each individual one.
Ah, got it.
Right.
Okay. So I would
Yeah.
go down here to
Yeah.
add section and then make
Yeah,
it a
and
resource
resource.
section,
100%.
resources. Got
There you
it.
go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
this
so
is cool.
just while we're talking about that too, this is where we often do things where you might create a resource section for different categories of or groups of people, right? So you might
Okay.
have your VIPs, for example, and now they've got a VIP resource section.
Yes.
And right. Another use case for that is languages. It's really handy if you're doing say you're doing some Spanish resources, for example. You create all your resources in Spanish, you create a resource section for Spanish resources, and you make it only available for those people.
Okay.
And so now you can change your visibility rules that only the Spanish speaking people can see the Spanish resources, and they don't see the English, for example. It's just
That is
it's just
so
some of the
interesting.
things that you can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is really where I feel like some of the extra flexibility of the dashboard comes in, and the things that I enjoy the most is when it's highly customizable to different groups of people or particular variables that we have, groups and tags and things that we have for people. It becomes very powerful to customize it, and things can change. Here's the resources for day 2. Here's only the resources for day 3, and they only appear at the right time or whatever it is, right? So that becomes very powerful.
And I could preload the workbook so that it's not there until whatever day that I need them to use it. That way they're not looking through it ahead of time or something if it's virtual.
Right.
I get that.
Yep.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah, you can
All right.
totally spoon feed. You can spoon feed sort of the resources as they're needed. And one of the things with that is just thinking about timing. While you can make things appear at certain times, I think it's always worth not being tied down to particular times of the day, and so that there is no restriction on time and space with our virtual events, and so that way you don't feel like you're locked into certain time slots, but it can just be as simple as having someone just go and click enable for a section or for a blog post or whatever it is, those sorts of things. So that's worth thinking about.
That is cool.
Cool. Now, does that cover some of the things? Is there anything else on your list?
Okay. Yes, but I do not want to totally hog this. If there's someone else who needs to pipe in, please. Yeah.
Before you go on, I do want to cover one more thing for your tech check that I didn't hear Grant cover. So if you're not manning tech check, say your event started, you don't have anyone in tech check. If you haven't disabled the tech check, then all the late attendees that haven't checked in will get stuck at the tech check.
Okay.
So once you are done with tech check and you're like, we're not going to run it anymore if they haven't checked in, too bad. They won't get the personalized piece. They'll just go right in the dashboard. Okay. You would go back to the tech check page and just click the enable button at the top to disable it. And then they'll just go straight from sign waiver into the dashboard.
That's awesome. Okay. Thank you. Perfect. That was
Brilliant
one of my questions.
Yeah, that's great, Justin. Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's actually a really good use case too. I think you were talking about doing a tech check the night before.
For the event, yes.
Is that right? Yeah. Yes. Which is great, right? So well, that's what we have started to do on some of our events where and initially when we were doing tech check, we would often do 2 or 3 days before the event, and for larger events, and we would have it available for quite a long period of time. And then on the day of the event, we would still be doing tech check. And if you had the team, you would still do it for even when people are coming late. And if you have the team, it can work well because it can be like, oh, hey, the event started, you haven't missed much. This is all you just need to know. Okay, we're going to get you in there now, right? So that can be a good experience. However, for even our smaller events, I had an event recently where we had 300 attendees that were registered. And so we did a tech check the night before, and 100 people came, and we went through the tech check process, and that was great. And then we turned tech check off. We just disabled it, and tech check didn't happen on the day. And those 200 people that didn't get tech check the night before, they just came straight into the event, and it was fine. But for those 100 people that did experience it, had a better experience.
Sure.
And from our team point of view, we weren't putting extra load on them on show day.
Mhm.
It was just a bonus for those 100 people that came before. And so it sounds like a similar thing you're talking about is just not doing it on the day of.
Yeah.
I would just mention too that sometimes in events we'll have a help desk, and that's another Zoom meeting, and it just has someone in your team that's just sitting there. If anyone has any kind of problems, questions, whatever during your event, they want to talk to someone, they can go back to the dashboard, hit help desk, it opens Zoom, and they can talk to someone.
Okay.
Now, when we do that,
Yeah.
what you can do is that you can make the help desk and the tech check room the same Zoom meeting.
Got it.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now, if you're going to have someone running a help desk anyway during your event, then you could have tech check enabled, and the latecomers will come into the help desk / tech check, right? They'll come directly into there first, and you can give them the quick spiel and then check them in, and now they go to the dashboard and away they go in, right? So
Love that.
there's just a little bit of double duty on that. You've just got to have someone that knows where people have come from, and they've just got to have their wits about them a little bit to know whether someone has come in for tech check or whether they've come in for help desk.
Got it.
And so they generally on an event, they can look it up quickly and they can see they've already joined, they're already checked in, and they've just joined the help desk, or they haven't been checked in. They've now come here for the first time. So
Check in.
That's adding a little bit of complexity, but it's just keeping these things in the back of your mind that it's like, okay, this is what's possible.
Perfect. I wanted to touch base with, is it Henri? Is that how you say?
Yeah,
Henri?
I just wanted to
I love
quickly
your comment.
add one comment to that. I had just the hardest time getting people to turn up for the tech check, and it drove me nuts to the point that I wanted to shoot them and kick them out of the event until I changed mine to a pre-event kickoff party.
I love it.
Everybody showed up, and I said, "Hey guys, let's do a little bit of housekeeping quickly. Let's go through the tech check, and then you know what? Let's grab a cocktail and welcome the event. And this is what's going to happen tomorrow." And it really changed the whole nature of the event, where people actually showed up on day one as like buddies already and as friends, and hey guys, great to see you again, all that stuff. And it kind of kickstarted the whole community building thing. And I've just found number one, I enjoy it more, but number two, people showed up, whereas the tech check, like, ooh, I have to do this. But keep in mind, I deal with like deviant, stubborn people that don't want to do what they're told. So I think
I might resemble that remark. Got it.
Me too.
I love that. I think it's a great thing, and you're right. It builds the community earlier, and it's not like tech check. Would it be possible to do something like this? Just open up an hour before we kick off, like especially this one that's the masterclass. I mean, literally, if a handful show up, I'll be thrilled. Could we just open it up maybe half an hour early? That'd be good.
Yeah. Okay. So there's two different ways, right? We have done that where we incorporate tech check into the meeting before, it's like pre-event.
Mm-hmm.
I think to Onric's point, if you're not saying that the show starts at 9 a.m. and then you want people to come at 8 a.m., I think you send a mixed message where people are just going to show up at 9 o'clock. and they're going to miss it anyway. If you're saying that the event starts at 8 a.m. and you've factored it in to your show that you're not really getting going and that tech check is part of the first part, then that's a really effective way of doing it too, right? Where you're not technically doing a tech check in the way that we're using the term tech check, where we're essentially doing a one-on-one process. Depending on how many people come at one time, on our larger events, we might have 10 tech check rooms going. Sure. so that we can have 1 to 4, 5 people that might come in at once, and you have more of a personal experience. If your event's not massive and you're not as worried about that, then I think incorporating tech check into your first session or your session is a great way to do it.
We're going to do that.
A way to do it is to be able to say, hey, we're going to do a breakout room in a minute, and the key purpose of this is a few things. But one, we want to make sure that everything's working on your tech side. We want to make sure your microphone's working, all that's working great, and we want you to meet a few people, and you work out that stuff, right? So now they come back, that all their cameras are working, everything's all great, so that when you're in the throes of your event and you want to do a 5-minute punchy breakout room session, you know that everyone's working great, and that one of them's not going to be hijacked by someone's camera or someone's microphone that's not working, and the 4 other people in that breakout room are trying to troubleshoot that microphone problem, right? Yeah. So you rather do all of that up front, but that's just some programmatical ways of handling that. And so that tech check idea could totally happen in your first session.
I love it. We could even call it like a coffee chat, coffee chat earlier. Yeah, I love that. I know Muddy has a question, but I have one more question, then I'll sit back. But Muddy first.
Actually, it's just a few things to contribute to the conversation. So one is that I set up a little demo with 2 other computers here to show you what that check-in process looks like for tech check. However, I want to reiterate what Justin and Anrik and Grant have been saying, which is I also don't call it tech check anymore, but I do call it check-in. And when we, when we send communication out, we usually say it's a mandatory check-in. And again, not everyone will show up, but for those that do, it's a better experience. And so I'm not really worried about my show up rates. I try to get people to show up, but if they don't, no problem. It's still going to be great. And Obvio is very much self-explanatory, but for those that do, it's a better experience. But I also differentiate check-in using Obvio's tech check step in the onboarding to what Grant is describing as this kind of smaller, more personalized experience of getting people oriented to the event. Separately, we have lots of events where we have a day 0 pre-event meet and greet, some type of social thing like Anrik is talking about. And we cover some of the check-in and orientation kinds of things in that session. But we actually I don't usually hold those using the check-in step in Obvio. I usually turn off tech check and just have a button on the dashboard that says, welcome party or pre-event social or whatever it is. And they come all the way into the dashboard, click the button, and then they're in the pre-session. So just another way that it can be done. But one of the things, and one of the reasons I like that approach, and I guess the other thing that we talked about is not having a pre-event session, but just allotting some time in session 1 to cover these things as people come into the event. So that's another totally reasonable way to do it. To actually run tech check using Obvio's tech check steps, there's a number of moving parts that kind of have to go right, Or as Justin said, it presents a little bit of a roadblock because people can't get past it if you have it turned on. So I definitely encourage you to practice if this is something that you want to use, because if tech check is turned on, they have to be checked in manually in the check-in room before they can get to the dashboard, which means that the check-in room there has to be someone in there, and the area has to be open. So both the room and the area have to be open in order for someone to get in there. So, and then once they're in there, the last thing that has to happen is there's the person who's in that room has to manually click a button to check them in. And that happens at the room page. So when Grant showed you to go to the room, go to the tech check area, and then click on the number 1, which will take you into room 1 in that room. That's where you want to kind of have that page up and ready. And when so that's actually what I have. And on one of my computers, I opened up a tech check, and on the other computer, I've added someone to join that meeting. And so they're in that tech check room with the tech check agent. And so I'm showing it as my camera feed right now. So and this room, you can kind of ignore this information. I have an Obvio Enterprise account, so it shows some more information at the room level. But what's important is at the bottom, it shows attendees. And there is someone who's waiting in that room named Muddy Schlegel, and they will show up here on this list. And so the person who's running tech check will see this show up and will have to manually click this check-in button, which you notice looked just like the check-in button on the attendee list, right? So it's the same as this kind of check-in button. They could theoretically do it from here, but when they're in that area, and I'm doing this in the help desk, and they're at room 1, those names will automatically show up as people come into this room. So this is where that person needs to sit in order to physically do the check-in.
Thank you, Muddy. That's awesome.
Yeah. Just my top of mind thought there is then to avoid all of this confusion and making it a little bit more challenging, can I just turn that off for this first 1 or 2 events and just kind of talk people through it? Yeah, cool. All right, Faith, 100%. You can start breathing again. We're not going to do that this time. Probably sitting there going, what? All right, cool. So we can turn that off, and 100%. Then I can just, from the quote unquote stage, I can just say, hey, everyone, we are going to have a breakout. We're going to test that out. So what that will require is just to be on look, like anytime you're on Zoom, you got to do your video. And as you start talking, just make sure you don't have a little red microphone in there, and then just call it good. Right. Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah. Yep. I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible this first 1 or 2. Okay.
Yeah, I think the key on all of that is actually that all this stuff is a mechanism for the interaction that you have. The human interaction and the ability for people to feel like it's a community rather than it's a watch party, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So you want to get away from, we're just watching something, we're just watching a video, because it encourages people to just sit back and disengage. Whereas when we create this kind of understanding that we're here together, we're going on a journey together, this is a unique experience that's being created in front of you, and that we're all a part of making this happen. Those are the breakout rooms is an opportunity to do that, and the tech check is too. But I totally agree with Muddy. There is a lot of traps, and it can end up being a really negative experience for your attendees if you just happen to miss the wrong setting, or it is some complex overhead that you certainly don't need on a show day. And so incorporating that into your normal event is a great way to do it.
Okay. Yep. Awesome. And one last, hopefully very short question. I've got the event on Sunday, and the event itself is from 3 to 4 Central. But if I go in and build that out as the time, I remember Kevin last time, there was something about, there was a Like you want to have a buffer on the beginning and buffer on the end.
Yeah.
Would you mind explaining that and maybe
Yeah.
show me what the difference is?
Sure.
Thank you.
We're talking about the event settings, which is in the menu. It's the top menu option, and the event settings, it has event time start and event time end.
Mhm.
The only there's some legacy stuff here that we need to tighten up a little bit, but the only thing that affects, the only thing is your ability to launch Zoom and to have Zoom working, right? Which means don't get concerned about those times at all. You could go in now and create and say that the event starts today and it finishes on Monday or Tuesday or whatever. So just make sure you've got a nice big window, and then there won't be any problems. We need to make that a little bit clearer in the way that we're doing. It used to be very, very specific because events weren't unlimited, whereas now events are unlimited, and you can just do what you can run your event for as long as you want. So don't be concerned by that at all. Your dashboard is always available. The moment the dashboard is enabled and you're sending links out to people, they can access that for a year before your event if you wanted to, and they can access it for a year after your event. However long you have have an active subscription with Obvio, people will be able to access that dashboard, and can be very helpful. Some events I've ran, we've put recordings back onto the dashboard for people to access after the event, and they might be still accessing that 6 months after the event has occurred, and they can go and access that, and that event start time and end time has no bearing on their access to the dashboard. So it's only for Zoom usage.
So one little caveat, Grant. I believe the end time does have an effect on service integrations and potentially broadcast not being able to send out after the event actually ends. So if you have things on your dashboard like tracking when people click on buttons for like your offer to judge interest, many times you want to set your end date for however long your follow-up period is going to be so that you keep tagging those people for the integration side. So that's the only kind of caveat to what you said.
Thank you. And that is good. And this is, and Justin, you can note on your ever increasing list of things to track is that we need to tidy up that start and end time thing and make it that clearer, because now what happens is people are running a longer event or something, and we have no insight into when their event actually is running because they've got this big long window. So that could be helpful data for us to know actually when does the event happen, and is it a recurring event, or that type of thing, and then manage the Zoom aspect of that differently. So
agreed.
Yeah. And same with the broadcasts and the integrations and things like that. When does the integration need to stop and that sort of stuff? So there's a couple of little things that we'll tweak along the way. So Samantha, does that cover most of the things? Now you've got more questions from the answers.
I will, but I'll come back next week with those. I think the biggest thing is you mentioned, like, I don't need to do the magic link for this masterclass. I can literally just send people, here's how you come in, and then they put their username and password in, and then it kind of creates their own login. Okay.
So you're going to use the sign up feature.
I haven't seen that. Do you mind showing that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, do you want to share your screen again? Have you still got it there?
Yep. And I want to say, hey, Kevin, I learned so much from your stuff a couple of weeks ago. So now I have questions, experiencing. So thank you. This is all good. But yes, here's my screen again.
Cool. So you're going to go in that left-hand menu. You can see right over, you can see sign up, 4 down from dashboard.
Yeah, got it.
Yep.
Okay. There you go. Ooh, look at that. Heather, you did such a good job. Look at that. Like amazed every time I go to something new and there's something there. Awesome.
So what you're going to do on this one is hit you're going to enable it at the top left there, where it says disable. You click that to enable.
Okay.
And what that's showing, your zoom on your screen a little bit is cutting that off a little bit, but the link is there. So
I
see
got you up here. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And so, yeah, if you look at that, it probably won't work.
Hey. Oh,
Yeah.
no, that's
Well,
because we're
the reason that
yeah.
you're already logged in. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're logged in as that test user, but it's essentially the same address with the /sign up at the end. They will come to this. They'll see this first name, last name, email, sign up. And you could change whether you want to call that sign up or enter event, or go take me to my dashboard, or that button can be whatever text you want on that, and of course fill in the form above. That text can be changed as well.
Okay.
You can say welcome to this event, whatever.
Yeah.
Once they put that in, now that you while we're here, actually, if you just go back to your dashboard, and just go to check in in that menu. So just 2 up from there where you are.
Okay.
Yeah. And go to tech check.
Got it.
You can see it there now.
We're going to nix it.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. All right. So now you've got it all. It's all very straightforward. People that sign up using the sign up feature are going to go straight to the dashboard.
Perfect.
Okay. So now you can send the same URL, that same link you can send to everyone. And whoever comes will go through and they'll be signed in.
Perfect. And then when it's a paid ticket, I'll do the magic link, but that's 2 weeks from now. So that could be like that. It'll feel so much better after going through this weekend. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I really appreciate
there's so many
this.
things that you'll learn through the process of testing. It's a really smart thing to do. So
yeah.
And a good timeline for it too. So
yeah.
Muddy, did you have something to add to this?
I do. So you'll always want to send people that sign up link. Then you won't want to send them the base URL without that sign up on the end.
Okay.
Now, if they've already signed up, it will just forward them to the dashboard, like your experience was just a moment ago when you put that in, but you were signed in, it saw the cookie and just brought you to the dashboard. So they can use that sign up link every time they come to the event. The first time they'll just put in their info. Every time after that, it'll kind of act like a magic link. It'll redirect them right to the dashboard. And so that's what I wanted to say about that. That's the link you'll always send to them that they'll use to access the event. But I wanted to say a word generally about passwords. And if this seems like a reasonable time to do that, because part of this process is you're kind of bypassing the login screen when you use this sign up feature. But Obvio is a secure platform. And so there is always a password of some sort, or actually, I should say there's always a secure way to access the platform. So one of those, as we've talked about, is sending each person their individual unique login URL, or magic link as we call it. And that essentially signs them in. So it bypasses the sign in page. If you had no password set at all, the default password is actually their email address. And in early days, we would and I had some events where the host wanted to keep it simple and send the same link to everyone, not a unique login URL, but the same link to everyone. And when we send that base event URL, it brings them to the login page. And what we would do is we would say email, and then in the password field, we would change the helper text to say, re-enter your email, because the default password is their email address. And so it's the same thing in both fields, and we could do that. But if you don't know that, it says login and password, but people don't know what their password is, so they get stuck there. Another thing that could be done on the event settings page is you could set one default password for everyone. So Ignite, right? Like just put in, and you would put again on that page, put in your email address and use the password Ignite to enter the event. Now, something that's newer, and actually the next option is that you force each person to create their own password on that onboarding step. But as Grant said, there are fewer and fewer cases where that's really where there's a real compelling need to do that. And so oftentimes we just disable the password step as a best practice. But the last thing, and this is relatively new, is in the event settings at the very bottom of the page, there is something that you can enable that says email only login. It's a toggle. And if you toggle that on, then the login page only has one field and it says email address. And so if for some reason they do hit that login page, all they have to do is enter their email address to enter the event. Now, that email address has to be someone that's registered for the event. It has to be listed. So it's still secure, but it's less secure because if you knew, anyway, you could guess at someone's email if you knew someone else that was coming to the event. But as long as that email is listed in the attendee list, if they put in just their email and hit login, it will bring them into the event. So that's another option, email only login. You can force them to do a login. You can set one login that's the same for everyone. Or the default login is their email address. So anyway, that's another thing that can sometimes hang people up on their early events. And in fact, I know Kat ran into that issue earlier when she was sending out the link and people were hitting that login page but didn't know their address. So we turned on email only login, and that helped them get through that page. So anyway, it seemed like a good time to mention all the different ways the platform is secure.
Very good, Muddy. Thank you. How many times can an email address be used per event? Once, but the sign up feature, if they try to sign up with the same email again, it will just send them straight back in as that user, which is nice. Didn't used to do that. So that yeah, if they use that same link and go back in, they'll get straight back in. So, hey, Kat, got a little question there. Let me unmute it for you. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you. So it's complex for me on the cell phone to try to get to.
Yes.
Forgive me.
You're right.
Is it possible to have French be the language of our dashboard? Is that possible?
Yeah. Look, the question is more if you want to support multiple languages. If you only want the dashboard to be in a language, in just in French, then you can change. You can just enter all of it in French. And there's very few buttons, that can't be changed into whatever language you want to use. So if you're only doing one language, no matter what it is, English or French or anything else, then you just change the dashboard to be in that language.
So do I have to actually go in and change the text in everything myself?
Yeah.
Or is there
Yes.
like an easy button?
Well, if you've already created everything in English, then you can rely on browser translation.
Yeah.
And the attendees can be doing that themselves.
Hello?
Then hello.
Yeah, I hear
Can
you
you
now.
not hear me?
Yes.
Um, so if that is what's happening, then what will happen is the browser will detect that it's in English and ask if it wants to be, viewed in French, for example. If all of your attendees are French, then I would be building the dashboard in French and not relying on automatic translation, which may or may not be a good translation, right?
Yeah, so most of the speakers are English speakers, but we have some unusual languages that are being watched. So thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Offering.
Look, if it's an English event, there's lots of events that we do that are English based, and we have non-English English speaking people coming to the event, but they know that it's an English event and they manage it, and they work that through themselves, and that's fine. And then there's other events that we really want to support the multi-language, and we take time to do that. So you just have to think about how you're servicing them.
Thank you.
Great, you're welcome. Heather, have we got other questions posted, or?
We sure do. So the next one is from Onric. He says, are you able to turn the default recording process by Zoom to off?
No. We have it set to auto record, but of course you can stop it, right? And so that's the way that it works. It's better from a best practices point of view for it to always record, because more people want to record than don't want to record. Therefore, it's better that it auto starts and that you intentionally stop it, so that it's an opt-out rather than an opt-in, right, on the record.
What about with an enterprise account? Can you set it at a certain organization level?
No, it's Obvio account wide that all events are recorded.
All right.
So it can just be part of your process, and I have done that sometimes in our green room meetings and things like that. We'll turn it off. So if you just know in your startup procedure that you want to stop recording, then you just do that, and it won't start again.
All right, got it. Thank you.
Cool. No worries. Next question, Heather.
This is from Martin. He wants to know if there is a video that shows the procedure to start a meeting with Obvio to have you and a co-host there and get everything that needs to be done before customers show up at the event.
To the question exactly, it would be in our walkthrough. However, it is straightforward. I can show quickly and have it in this video if you like.
That would be nice, because I couldn't find it and I was fumbling around for 30 minutes before I figured out how to get the stuff to show up.
Fair enough.
So what is straightforward is just not straightforward to me. Turning on an area, getting the right link to the person, I kind of did it once and I'm not sure I can do it again today.
Okay. All right. So let's have.
Are you closing up?
Okay. So first things first, we have a button to add to our whichever Zoom area that we want. So as we're looking at this particular one, actually, I think we've even got a test event there. Say, for example, test event. So we've got a button, we've got join area, and I've got it going to area test. When we have a look at, so that means that the button is enabled. All the attendees are going to see the button when they click it. If it's all online, then they will join the Zoom meeting. So that's the first thing. The next thing is that we go to the Zoom areas. We go to the test area here, and We want to make sure that the area is open, so it's toggled open. And then we just want at least one room here to be open. So when we hit open, that initializes the Zoom meeting. And then when you click start, you will be the host. The first person to start the meeting is the host. Subsequent people that your team click that same button will come in as co-hosts. And so if they have access to it that way, they'll come straight in and they'll be a co-host. So as long as it's online, the room is open, you've started, and the area is open, they're the only things that you need for all of that to work. The reason that we have open area is essentially like a waiting room. If the area is closed like this, then people are going to get the offline text. And if you don't have any custom text in here, it'll just say this room is offline. But you can put custom text in here and say that the event or the room is going to open at 5 p.m. Whatever you want to, whatever makes sense to have in this offline page. Rather than them sitting in a Zoom waiting room, you can have this, which means you can go in, start your Zoom meeting, get your co-hosts in, get everything tested, make sure you're all happy an hour, 2 hours before your event starts. Once you're happy for people to arrive, then you can toggle this, open the area, and now it's open.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And Martin, one of the things that, if I can just chime in here, that I've learned the hard way, when you're setting up, do yourself a favor and join your meeting right in the beginning before people get there with your phone as a meeting attendee, as like the third person joining, because if your power goes out or your internet goes out, literally the first attendee that shows up becomes the host, right? And it's always the person who has no idea how to find the mute button. Whereas if your phone is actually joined up as a meeting attendee, that's a backup device where you're still the host, even if all else fails. And that has really saved me a couple of times when, the power and the internet went out and, all of my backup devices went down. I had my phone in there and I said, hey guys, hold tight. I'll be back in 5 seconds.
Okay. You guys said that somebody told me that you can't hear me. Is that still true?
Yeah,
I got you.
Your audio sucks.
I can hear you.
No, it's awful.
Well, the microphone's not great, but we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, I need to work on that.
No, people don't forgive you for bad audio. They'll forgive grainy video, but they don't forgive bad audio.
Thank you, Enric. I needed that because since my event is in exactly 60 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, when you do the co-host piece of that with the secret link, that was what was very confusing.
Yeah.
You mean using registration?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the room registration link.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so that's not a co-host. That is simply getting someone into that meeting, kind of like a stage door. And so if you're using it for a speaker or someone like that, that will bypass whether the area is opened or not, which means that you can get your a guest as a guest speaker or whatever. You can get them in using that, so they don't have to go through the dashboard or through the Obvio admin, and you can use it that way. So everything that I was saying before about the process is still the same. You still have to have the room open. It's started. You're the host. If you use the registration link, they're going to come into that meeting as an attendee. They won't be a co-host. You would need to, in Zoom, promote them to be a co-host if you want them to be.
Is that the best way of bringing in new co-hosts? Or is there a different procedure?
It depends on what their function is. What's their role? What do they need to do?
They're equal to me.
If they're equal to you, then they should enter it the same way that you do, so that if they get disconnected for any reason, when they rejoin, they'll be co-host. Or if you get lost, they can start it again.
But the way I enter is by starting the room. So if they go to the Obvio dashboard, they can also hit start the room and it doesn't get confused. Two people can start the room.
100%. Yep.
Okay.
It's the same link that they're using. So it'll actually say when it has started and Obvio's detected that it started, it'll say join. It won't say start. That same button will say join, not start.
Yeah, I already have, for whoever's asking, I already have the team. It's just not clear what happens because I don't know where this documentation is. Like, that is the procedure that I would need to go because I already have the team. They're admins into my Obvio dashboard. I didn't know that two people can start a meeting at the same time. So that's good to know. So that makes them both hosts automatically.
It makes the first person that started it will be the host.
Mm-hmm.
And any subsequent people that click that button will be co-hosts.
Will be co-hosts. Okay, automatically.
Yeah,
that is good to know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Martin, to clarify, in the back end, the first person, the button says start. And so they click it, it starts the meeting. And then that button immediately turns to a button that says join for anyone else.
Okay.
So multiple people aren't starting it. The first person starts it, but all the rest, the button says join and they can join and they come in as co-host.
Okay. And this is in the onboarding video because I did not remember any of this.
Well, yeah. There is talk about that. There's definitely is in the longer ones. But whatever. Okay. You didn't catch it the first time, you caught it now. So that's good.
Okay. Wish me luck in an hour.
No worries. Yeah, I hope it goes well for you.
Okay.
All right. Next question, Heather.
Perfect. From Lion, he wants to know if we want to host an event for someone else, what's the best way to use Obvio to do that?
Say that again, sorry. What was the first part of that?
If we want to host an event for someone else, what is the best way to use Obvio to do that?
Yeah, there's lots of different ways. So it depends on what access they need. I run events for different people that don't ever really see Obvio in a way, right? Like my clients don't need admin access. Some do, and some I have given a role and that they can get in and do attendee management, for example. So it's no real different, I don't think, to your own team running it. You create roles, you think about what access people need, and if they need admin access, or if they don't, they just need to be in the meeting, and for each one of the team members what access they need, and you create that. The way it goes. Technically, if you were running events a lot for other people, then we'd love to see you on an enterprise account, which really is designed for that. So it's got unlimited organizations, for example. So it's one of the things that you would do is have a dedicated organization for that group of people, and you would give the right level of access to those people, and then you would manage all of that. So having said that, you can do it on a pro account and have a little play with that and see how it goes. And if it goes really well, then you can look at going to enterprise at some point. I think that answers that.
The next one is also from Martin. Oh, I'm sorry, Lion.
So real quick, just to throw one more thing that I mentioned, you can host it on a pro account. You can only have 5 active Zoom running. So where enterprise, you get 25. So if you're running client events out of there and multiple ones or your own events, there is a limitation for how many Zooms you can actually start at once. Heather, onto you.
Yeah, across all of your organizations. So that's something to think about. If you're actually managing multiple events at the same time, you might come across that limit. Okay, next question.
Martin wants to know what is the best way to use rules to show and hide your core offer button on Avio dashboard when I'm teching my own event. Do I use a rule or handle this differently?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I got it. I can take this one.
Yep. Thank you.
So Martin, you could use a rule and set when the button shows on the dashboard. I typically suggest, since you have Patty typically on your events or someone else, or even yourself, going into the dashboard and manually enabling them. I have been bitten multiple times with being ahead of schedule, and all of a sudden the button doesn't show up when I want it to show up because I set the visibility rule not to show until later.
That's what I needed to know. I totally forgot that concept with that, because I was like, oh no, I need a rule, but I was like, what's the rule going to be? And my brain was going down a whole rabbit hole. Visibility, that makes perfect sense, because I'm the one who's going to be running the Avio, and Patty's going to be the one talking more often than not, so I can do that. I just couldn't think of the thing.
Yep, I would not put a rule in there at all. Just disable the button. And when you're ready during the offer portion, enable the button, save it, and it'll show up within about 90 seconds for people.
Perfect. Doing it now. Thank you.
Welcome. Heather, next question.
Muddy wants to know, well, we might have covered this already, but what the best practices and recommendations for running a check-in and tech check. I think we might have gone over that originally.
Well, it was a little bit of a softball earlier when we were talking about tech check and adding some of the best practices. But one of the things that I have noticed as we've moved it more from tech check to check in, what I am sharing with the attendees is more around getting them oriented and excited and how to show up for the event. And only about a third of what we cover has to do with Zoom, like how to manage Zoom. So I thought it might be useful here. And in fact, I'll be running a tech check later this evening, a check-in later this evening for an event. But the things that I'm ultimately, my goal is to help the attendees have the best experience. And so that starts from the moment they come into the room and I'm welcoming them and great to have them and excited. The next thing I'm emphasizing is that this is a live event. So we want them to show up live and we want them to be on camera. And we talk a little bit about how it helps the host to be able to see you and see your reactions. And so, and I even tell them that oftentimes the host has a setting that says hide non-video participants so that if you turn your camera off, they literally don't know you're there. You're not in the gallery view. So that's another way to help encourage people to have their cameras on. And so talking about a live event. And then because it's a live event, some of the things that I've learned through TVE and through LEAP around kind of setting yourself up for success to stay present by having food and snacks and letting the rest of your family know that you'll be in an event. And LEAP sends out door hangers, right? I'm building my business. And so just some tips to help them be present in the event. The next things I'm telling them are around Zoom. So because this is an interactive event in Zoom, I want to make sure that they can chat and that they're familiar with chat. And again, most people are familiar with this. We've been using Zoom more, but it's just a reminder that we're going to be using a chat a lot during this event. And so I want to encourage them to kind of get in that habit and get in that mindset. I also want to let them know where the raise hand feature is in Zoom, because that's something we'll be using. And I let them know there'll be times when the speaker is in presentation mode where we may have it turned off where you can unmute yourself, or you can mute and unmute yourself. And so you'll raise your digital hand if you want to share, and then the team can unmute you and bring you in. But there may be times when it's discussion, and certainly in breakout rooms, where you'll be able to mute and unmute yourself. So we want to make sure that they kind of learn and practice how to do that. we often invite our guest speakers to come in for Tech Check as well. So it's a chance to make sure that we can hear them and see them and they look good. And so we can give them a little extra attention if needed. And then the third and last part of what we do with Tech Check is give them a little bit of an orientation to the dashboard. So at this point, I now normally kind of push the button to check them in. And I'll usually pull up a screen that shows the dashboard and let them know, hey, just a minute, when you leave this Zoom meeting, you'll be back at the dashboard. I know that because they had the dashboard Tech Check page up when they got to me. And if I've checked them in, now when they leave Zoom, what they're going to come back to is the dashboard. So you can also put the dashboard link, just the base event link, event.obv.io or whatever your event name is, in chat that they can click, and that will take them back to the dashboard. But I often give them a little bit of an orientation to the dashboard. And sometimes it's simple, just saying your dashboard is your kind of central place where you'll go and access the event. So there'll be a big button at the top that says enter the main stage. That's where you'll come each morning to join the event, remind them of the event start time, but also tell them, that the content on that page will change through the course of the event. So there'll be things that there's a welcome post there now. As you scroll down, you see the agenda. And I remind them one of the cool features about the agenda in Obvio is it shows up in the attendees time zone. So we were on a team call earlier this week and 3 of us were in 3 different time zones. And I'm like, hang on a minute, everybody just go to your dashboard and it shows you what your time zone is. It's like, oh, okay, great. So that's a really neat feature that I kind of remind folks of. So just get them oriented to the dashboard. And then it's interesting because maybe Heather sent it to me early on, but Sage has a Tech Check script that they developed kind of early on, and we're sharing. And some of that stuff it's really focused mostly on the tech and kind of what device are you connecting from. It's great, it's useful, but I've kind of added to it with these other things that I'm talking about. And the one thing that I changed on that script is I usually at the end it says, do you have any questions? And I was just teaching a facilitation class this last week, end of last week. And when you say, do you have any questions? Really what you're saying is, did you not understand anything? And it's kind of like if I raise my hand, it's like, okay, I didn't understand that. So I changed that to say, what questions do you have? And it just helps normalize. I expect them to have questions. What questions do you have? And so it's normal to ask questions. One tiny little tip, but ultimately the whole idea is to help them be warm and help them have the best experience. And so I want them to ask questions during the event. So I modeled that in Tech Check. So those were some of the things that were top of mind for me. But as we were talking about Tech Check earlier, I thought I would open it up and see if there's any other best practices or recommendations that others would have around the check-in desk.
Biggest one I have is someone that's running it needs to be super friendly, customer service oriented, because it is the first person they're going to see for your event.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and it's actually how I started with Blue and Obvio and Heather taught me how to do Tech Check on, I think probably like the second event or something that Sage did virtually. It's third, maybe something like that. And so the key was with building out that team is exactly to Justin's point, was it was all customer focused, like customer, sort of service focused. And then ideally, you've kind of got someone with a bit of extra technical knowledge that might be able to troubleshoot some technical things with people about how they're getting their microphones working and things like that. But even that's kind of rare now. And so, the term Tech Check is not necessarily a helpful one because it sounds like you need a bunch of IT people to run it, and they're probably the last people you want to have run your Tech Check. You want to have really like registrate. You think of them as registration desk people. Who would you put behind a registration desk in an in-person event? That's who you want running tech check for you. So yeah, that's great points. Thank you, Muddy and Justin.
The other tip I would say in the check-in is don't be hard set that it has to be 1-to-1 for check-in. If all of a sudden you get 5 or 10 people that all join at once, turn it into a group check-in. Have them all unmute and say hello, put a little hello in the chat, raise their hand, and then go one by one for questions so they can get out of there as soon as possible.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, and it actually can be really fun, particularly on a larger event. Some of those people make the connections and they become friends and they go through the whole thing together. And, we've totally had that. It was like, we did tech check together and then we went through the whole event and we were checking in with each other the whole event and all of that. So that's pretty cool. It's a good way to do it. Cool. What else have we got, Heather?
Onric says, I use QLab to play videos, clips, meeting timers, etc. through BitFocus companion program Stream Deck. Any alternatives to this very chunky, stubborn, and unreliable software?
So many. I'll let you go first, Grant.
Well, I think Onric's. Are you on the phone, Onric? Yeah, you're okay now?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I was just paying an overdue bill on stupid PayPal. God, I hate that company.
It sounds. Where do you have the biggest problem with the setup that you're using? Where does it fall over for you?
I've got a dedicated computer on a screen down there that I have. This was still stuff that Chuck helped me with that I can plug into my studio. And that is where QLab is plugged into. And using Companion, basically I programmed a whole bunch of buttons so that I can have, audio, I can have, video stuff, etc., in it. And it's just a really shitty piece of software. When it works nicely. But
QLab
yeah,
or Companion?
Yeah, QLab. When it works, it works nice. But man, I hate that software. Like whenever I get tripped up in the middle of an event, it's because like QLab has stopped working and stuff. And I'm like, surely there's got to be an easier option. And I just thought I'd ask you guys, seeing as you guys are dealing with this stuff all the time, what do you guys use to play clips and music videos and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I use QLab, and
Okay.
I'm very happy with it.
All right.
But I agree, it's a complex tool, and so it's not just a simple throw files in and play it. So the key for me is all the preparation on it. Once we have it all prepared, we do some really complex shows with it. Because it's a theater piece of software, right? It's for theaters running big, shows that are outputting a bunch of audio and video and doing that sort of thing with lots of cues and that sort of thing. So, so it just might be a more complex tool than you need to do what you're doing.
I'm a total techie. I can figure stuff out, so I have figured out how to create the path and, send it out to, through my ATEM switcher and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's not like I can figure it. I can't figure it out.
It doesn't mean it's over your head. He means it has more bells and whistles than you may need, and that may be part of the challenge.
Yeah, and I think I'm interested to hear what Justin and Muddy say about this. My recommendation would be that I would separate out your audio playback and your video playback. And so I would do something like a Rode Podcaster for the audio playback. So it's really simple. You've got a whole bunch of buttons there. You slam a button and it plays the audio that you want to do. I'd do that type of thing and keep that out of QLab. And then I would use either QLab or something else for your video playback. And now this is often the case, is that the more dedicated that you can have pieces of hardware to a particular task, not only the better the hardware runs, but also the easier it is for you cognitively for you to know what you're doing. I want to play sound, bang, I'm going to do that. I want to play a video, I'm going to do that. And that computer's doing that task, and that's doing that task. And it just keeps the workflow very straightforward. When
I've got the new road.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm interrupting.
Yeah, no, you go. No, you go.
I've got the new Roadcaster video, which is a nice piece of kit. Really, really simple, straightforward for that type of thing. One button press, off you go, you know. But obviously it doesn't come with Companion. And I've spent all this time programming all my nice buttons. I mean,
it does come with Companion.
Oh, it does now? Okay. In the beginning it didn't, right? Okay, yes. So I got to go play with shit until 3 o'clock in the morning again. So that'll be great.
I believe it's in the latest Companion betas where they put it.
All right, I'm going to go play with that. Thank you for that. You just made my day, because I'm still running an ATEM switcher just so that I can use that, and the ATEM switcher goes into my Roadcaster. So I do appreciate that. Grant, quick question. So I'm still on the free version of QLab, which doesn't allow me to have multiple screens on that computer that it's running, because it only has single output. You know, I mean, I take it you're on the paid one. What is that costing you?
Well, two things on that. One is that the free version allows you to output to one screen. It can be any screen you want it to be. So you can change which screen it's outputting to. Still on the free version, that's totally fine. So the paid version just gives you where you want to play things on multiple outputs. So you want to show videos on multiple screens. If you only ever want to output to one screen and you're only doing stereo audio, you only need the free version. That's what it's for. If for some reason you wanted to do there's other things like some network control and some other things that you might need the paid version for, you can rent it. You can rent it per day. Yeah. It's like $5, $10 a day, which is great.
My main kind of version is that obviously I've got this running on this machine, right? And if I want to play a video, I want it to go, right? So that's essentially the primary use of it, for playing video clips, playing audio soundtracks. If I want a little, coffee timer during an event, that's basically what I need it for. So
you can select which monitor you want it to go out to. It doesn't have to be on the same one that the control panel is on.
Yeah, but you see what I'm doing? I'm basically putting that monitor as a background, right? So that is, I'm putting that as an video input, right? And then the audio goes in so that when I press, let's pick something, okay? Minions. Everybody needs minions in their life in the middle of an event, right? It's coming from that screen. All right, so I got to go back and play with it, is what you're saying.
So when you click that video, it takes over on that screen. Is that right?
Yeah, takes over on that screen, which is both the audio is then coming into the Roadcaster video via HDMI, and the background is playing on here. So it's a nice way to, for example, to pick a music timer, right? I mean, so literally I can just do a music timer and then say, all right, I'll see you guys back in 5 minutes. Boom. And then I've got music and audio playing, and it's a nice way to run through it.
Yep. Yeah. So you can choose which is the default output for QLab, and you can choose each one of the
All right. I won't
queues
take
as to which one it
everybody's.
goes to.
Yeah, I won't take everybody's time with it. If you say it's a good solution, then I will run with it.
So what I would suggest, Anrik, if you don't already have it on your Stream Deck, is some companion feedback on the buttons to make sure that companion didn't lose the connection and that it's still a good connection, and have that same button be, if you press it and hold it down, that you can toggle the connection on and off basically. Because sometimes those connections go bad, and I'm betting that potentially might be what's happening when QLab just goes belly up, is that companion and QLab stop communicating and companion just needs to toggle on and off.
I've really been playing with the feedback button. I mean, so both to hold it like this, you see what I mean, and also to show the remaining seconds left in the clip and all that stuff. But yeah, it's a whole re-education that you need on that. Yeah.
Yep, and one of the feedback options in companion is the actual connection status. And so for all the different connection statuses, you can color like the background or do something else.
Okay. All right, I will play with that. I appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much.
And then
for helping.
one last thing for you, I would suggest possibly balancing the audio a little bit better. The volume of us speaking through this compared to the volume of everything you've played was way louder for what you played. Like to the point I kept wanting to turn down my volume in my ears.
No, it's only because I was having an 80s party in here before I joined the call, tinkering with stuff, and I had all the volume up, listening to Freddie Mercury and Bohemian Rhapsody at full volume. So I apologize for blasting your ears on that one.
Sounds great.
Nice.
Sounds like we're on to the next question.
Muddy, did you have anything to add?
I would reiterate that the issues I've had with QLab and with other playback systems, and we won't go into all the different kind of options, because I really do believe with what you've built already in QLab and in Companion, it's a good tool. And so I would recommend you stay with that as opposed to learning something different and kind of feeling like you've got to start back over. And generally speaking, QLab has been pretty stable. I think a couple of the things Grant's talking about tweaking how the output is routed from QLab may help you, so that you've got a second display on that machine so you can always see the controls. And because you can see on the controls what's running as well in QLab, right? There's a visual feedback on the cues. So having have it output to a second display that you've got a splitter on, one that comes into your system and becomes the backdrop, and the other one on a monitor that you can see, would probably simplify that playback. And then what Justin is saying, the biggest issue I have had with these external systems is Companion losing its connection to them, right? So it's just toggle it back on and off. So QLab, I think, is pretty stable. The connection to Companion may be the one gets flaky from time to time. But
yeah, and it is, and I've noticed that any event that I do, it like you almost need 20 minutes just to get all this, make sure it's all working. It's like the gremlins come in here at night, or maybe it's the minions. They come in here and they play with all my stuff.
I prefer an hour. Yeah.
And then I come in, I'm like, this stuff was all working last night. What happened? Yeah, I mean.
Well, and I do want 20 minutes, but I want that 20 minutes to be an hour before showtime. So if I have to troubleshoot anything, I have time. But if it all works in my 20-minute test, then it's like, okay, I can go get another cup of coffee and feel centered and relaxed.
Well, you don't do events with Laura Louise, who shows up in front of the green screen wearing all green.
I have clients too, so yeah, I can understand.
And I'm like, what the hell are you thinking? Anyway, fun and games. But as you see from the other screen, I have plenty of spare screens, and I got a spare screen right here next to me, next to the chat window, that I could put that second window on so that I can see the QLab queue and not interfere with the screen that it's playing from. So I'm going to go play with that. But sorry, this is boring for everybody else, but I geek out on this stuff. It's kind of fun.
The other thing, Anrik, you might consider doing, if you're not already, is toggling all of your connections off in Companion and toggling them back on to clear any states that might be held before your event. I do that for a lot of my connections because I notice they do hold states and have some funky stuff going on. If I close the app overnight so it's not running companion a lot of times is still trying to pull the thing to connect constantly and gets into funky states every so often. So just toggle them off, toggle them back on.
So
It's kind of my first
that's
pre-show step.
basically running in here and then just toggling these buttons on and off here.
Yep. I just toggle all of them on and off typically.
Okay. Alrighty. No, perfect. Thank you.
Cool. More questions, Heather?
Yes. So Peter is setting up his email broadcasts and he has some questions.
Okay.
Hi, Grant. How you
Hey,
doing?
Peter. Good to see you.
Good, man. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So I just set up the broadcast. I don't know if I can share my screen, and then let me just
Go
show
for
you
it.
what I'm doing. Okay, so I came here. I set up the broadcast. Let me just open up the, and then I sent it out. I don't know. I did everything here. Then I sent this out, and for some reason, I'm not receiving the emails, or the emails don't seem to be going out. And I don't know how long does it take before you send it out. And I tried doing the test email. Let me just close this. Okay. I tried doing the test email and I have not received that either. Is there anything that I need to do? Is there anything that shows whether the things have been sent out or not?
Just try the test again to go. There's a couple of things we can point out, but try send a test.
Okay, send it again. And I can put any email inside?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. All right.
And just send another test and send it to
a different email
to me.
Okay.
Yeah,
to you?
do grant at obv.io.
Grant. You say, sorry, at?
Yeah, obv.
obv.io.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And while we're just waiting for those to come through.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got that.
Oh, you got it?
See that. Yeah, the test has worked fine. So the key thing, the key trap with broadcasts is that whenever you go and edit, it goes back into draft mode and won't send.
Okay.
So if you open, just share again.
Okay.
I'll just show you that.
Okay.
So firstly, the fact that we only see the one email there and it hasn't got send status or published means that it wasn't published, and so it hasn't sent. It was just in draft mode.
Okay.
So if you go to edit it now, the key thing is right there. That's it. You've got to save. You got to hit publish and save on that.
Okay.
And that will now be ready to go.
Okay. All right.
But of course,
I need to change the time again. Okay.
Yeah, the timing's going to be whacked.
Okay. Let me just see. And I can save again, as you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you've got that set in the future, hang on.
You might need to
still
add
looks
2 more
like
minutes.
2 more minutes?
Yeah. Needs to be 5 minutes into the future. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And now you see the dot.
I see the dot. Yeah,
published.
yeah.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
And now in a little while, in another 7 minutes or so, that'll all trigger off and send.
I see. So the dot has to show that blue there, then you know it's good to go.
That it's published. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right.
And then after that, it'll have send status to say that it has also sent.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think
cool.
I think that's the only question for now. I see that we have this purchase confirmations here. I haven't played around with this yet. Is there a video that you guys have?
This is part of
that's part of marketplace. Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right. I'll go and watch that video. I think have
Yep.
sent that video to me.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you so much.
Ja-
Good.
So-
Justin, we could have a pop up that just says, "Are you sure you want to keep it in draft? This is still in draft. Are you sure you want to keep it in draft?"
Or
You know what I mean?
I
Something
actually
like
have it on my list to move that draft toggle to the bottom. Like the fact
Yeah,
you got to
right.
finish everything and scroll back to the top.
and then go back
Like,
up top. Yeah.
I constantly miss it too. One thing
Yeah,
I think we could cover though for Peter really quickly, so he doesn't just have to watch the videos for all of it, is what those emails do on the side, the welcome, the purchase, like when they get triggered. If you wanted to kind of
Go for
run
it.
through that a little bit, Grant, I'm gonna let you do it.
That'd be cool.
All right. So in the broadcast, so we had broadcast, we've got a welcome email, and then you were seeing the purchase confirmation. You're not using Marketplace at the moment?
I would like to. I have not. I just found out about Marketplace today, actually.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the key ones are the broadcast is scheduling a broadcast to send to some or all of your attendees. And so it's very powerful, that broadcast feature, because you can filter who you want to send it to. You can filter to say that people that have been to the dashboard, which are checked in, or not checked in, that haven't been to the dashboard at all. So you could send a custom email sent out to them to say, hey, we noticed you haven't been there yet, that type of thing. But of course, you can even filter based on groups and tags. And so depending on what you have in your attendee data, you could filter that right down and say, I want to target this group of people that have my VIPs, for example. And I'll say, hey, we've got a special VIP breakfast we want you to come to, and whatever. Right. So that's broadcast. It's always scheduled. It's always at least 5 minutes into the future is the quickest that you can send that. A little trick that I snuck in as a little hidden thing is that if you send a test email to an address of an attendee, then it will populate all the data in that email accurately. Like it'll have their proper login URL, it'll have their name, all of that stuff will be correct. So if you wanted to just trigger one email to one person, you can use the test function and it will send the email, and it won't say test or anything. It'll send it as if it's as if they got it on schedule. The test function works that you can send it to any address, and if you send it to an address, so just then, Peter, you sent one to me, and it just has sort of random data that it uses in there for my name, and any login links and things like that it needs to just use generic data for that. It makes up a URL and things like that. But if I was in your attendee list, then it would use my data that's in the attendee list. So that's broadcast. The welcome email is specifically for when an attendee has been added to Obvio into your event. Doesn't matter how it's added. It can be added manually. It could be added via CSV upload. Could be added by a integration with a CRM. There's any way that an attendee is created in Obvio. As soon as it's created, and if the welcome email is enabled, it will send an email to them.
Well, that's cool. So it's got to be enabled, and then anyway, it's any person that's added, it just sends it automatically at first time.
Correct.
That's cool.
Yep.
Okay.
It's very handy. It's very handy for last minute signups. People that sign up on the day or things like that, they can get whatever your process is for them signing up. They will get that welcome email. So that's the key there. And so then you may want to turn that off, depending on your use case for it. So then, I think I'll reserve the other ones for a marketplace deep dive into marketplace, because it's specific to marketplace is the purchase confirmation. and and those processes, because it is separate to marketplace.
Well, I
But they're the
appreciate.
two key ones in broadcast.
Yeah, I appreciate it because I didn't know what the difference between the welcome email is and the broadcast email. So knowing the
Okay, great.
difference
Yeah,
that you can use that welcome email just hands on, it's just set up, ready to go, is good to
that's
know.
right. Yeah, you can use them both, and you likely would, for depending on what the sign up process is, you can send people emails, and so even if people are if you're using the sign up feature within Obvio, where people are just going to, we were talking about that before, where people go to /sign up, your event /sign up, and they put in their first name, last name, and email. If you had the welcome email on, they would also get that welcome email that says, hey, thanks for signing up. And you could give them their login link. You want to come back quickly and easily? Here, use this login link. So that's a really good use case.
So once the emails are sent, is there any confirmation? Would you actually know that everything has been sent out? Is there anything that shows that everything's been sent, like it's all
So
gone
then
through?
you'll get the dot that changes on the sent. And there is this function is still in beta at the moment, but you can hit some statistics as well. You see there's a little graph,
Okay.
a little icon of a graph.
Yes.
You can click that and it will show you some numbers of it being sent. So we're still doing some testing on this to validate the accuracy of those numbers.
Okay.
But yeah, you'll see some numbers there.
Nice. So I see it says total opened and total bounced. 6
Yeah.
bounced. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you've already sent it? It has sent?
Yes,
Yeah.
I've
Okay,
sent.
sent a minute ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that means that 6 people on there have bounced back, so the email was incorrect or that sort of thing.
Okay.
So
Okay.
and we're looking at making that available as well to show, as in that would be something that we want to add,
Okay.
is seeing what those bounces are.
I
Justin.
Well, there's a whole list to actually make those stats truly work.
Yeah.
I would take them with a grain of salt. We've seen
That's
some
right at the moment.
some really odd things like 130% open rates and numbers that don't quite make sense to us.
Yeah.
It is on our list though to really actually enhance that.
It's actually
bunch.
it's one of those features that we can't really test in a development or a staging environment easily, and for us to really know properly, we need to have it working with real data, with real accounts, real emails being sent, all of that, and so that's why it's kind of in live development in front of your eyes. Yeah.
Thanks. And then one last
cool.
thing. How long on average does the emails take to be sent out to everyone? Is there like a time frame?
It depends on how many are being sent, but they will trigger off very quickly once it's based on that. So, you could see when you did that test to me, I got it straight away.
I see.
And so when it's scheduled, I can't remember actually what our send rate is, but it's a lot a second that it's triggering off. And so if you've got a few hundred, they'll be done within 30 seconds or so.
Okay.
So
thank you so much.
And then you're left to the internet gods as to how long it takes for that to arrive at people's individual email servers and computers and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, your mileage may vary a little bit on that. So. Cool. Thanks, Kevin. Heather?
We are all caught up with questions that have come through the dashboard.
Sweet. That's great. Oh, look at that. We're at 2 hours as well. So we're running an event at the moment. It's got 1,700 people in it in how many 25 rooms. And so there's a few things, there's no rooms more than 70 or 80 people, and they work into different teams. And so, and then those teams break out into smaller rooms as well, not breakout rooms, but separate Zoom meetings. So there's hundreds of Zoom meetings that we manage for this particular event. So it's fun. So I've been slightly distracted, but thank you to Justin and Muddy and others that have helped cover that up a little bit. Did someone wave their hand? What was that? Yeah, Carol.
You know, I have someone that she's not exactly a co-host, but she's going to come in and out. So what should I do? Should I just leave that open? I mean, how should I work that?
Yeah, so you always want to think about the terminology is really important when we think about sometimes we use the term co-host because of the function that they play programmatically as part of, they do a lot of speaking. And so they're kind of like they're hosting the event. Whereas we tend to use the term co-host in Zoom as a function of what they're able to do technically in Zoom. And so it's always the key things that people can do as a co-host are muting people, unmuting people, doing private chats to them, moving them around in breakout rooms. There's all these sorts of abilities for a co-host. If the person you're thinking of doesn't need to do any of those functions, then they can just come as an attendee. And they can come and go as an attendee, and it would be fine. And you call on them when they need to talk, and away they go. Sometimes you may have in Zoom, you might have it set that people can't unmute themselves, which is a helpful feature to use, where people can't just talk whenever they want or accidentally unmute. And in that case, you may want to give these people a co-host so that they can unmute themselves. That's one key thing that can be helpful. So then it's a matter of how are you giving them co-host abilities in Zoom. One way is the host in Zoom can promote them to be a co-host. And each time they join, that would need to happen. Or through Obvio, they can join through the admin and hit join. And then when they join, they will join as co-host. And so that's
when
up
are they
to
there? Are they on the screen all the time, or because I have someone that's going to be doing, the back end, but this person will kind of come and go with me. Sometimes will be speaking with me, sometimes won't be speaking with me.
Okay. Yeah. So as to how they're seen, that's the same whether they are an attendee or a co-host. They can turn on and off their video as they please.
Okay.
And so they don't, just because they're co-host doesn't mean they have to have their camera on.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. And just one other question. So I said people are registering now, and then and the URL that I'll send them so that they'll have a link to get on, to get into the dashboard. Where is that?
So how are they signing up to your event? If
I
they're
created
using
a link through Obvio. I created a link and there's a registration form. That's all. Yes, Muddy helped me, so I sent that. That's all taken care of.
Okay,
So
great.
they're registered now.
So if they're using the sign up feature, then they can continue to use that sign up feature. They can, when they want to come back, they can just go back there again, put their details in, away they go.
Great. That's what I wanted to know. Okay, terrific. Okay, thank you.
Great. All the best.
Thanks.
Hope it goes great.
Me too.
Great. I think we might call it there, unless there's anything desperate. Excellent. Thank you, Heather. Thanks, Justin.
Sorry, real
Sounds
quick, just before you run, just real quick. I'm just trying
Yeah,
to
mate.
set up. I'm just trying to set up a logo here, and it's kind of big. What are the sizes again? Because do I have to readjust it in some software like Photoshop in order to?
No, no. So you can there is a slider there to change the size of it.
I did do that,
Um,
but it still feels like it's
okay.
still bigger.
Too big.
Yes.
So then you can add padding as well. So you
Okay.
can add some padding around it. So you could just play around with those things. You should be able to make it as small as you need to.
Okay. With the padding.
Occasionally, I've had it where I have done a little bit, in Photoshop or similar,
Okay.
and done some manipulation of where the of some of the extra padding that I've added on it.
Okay.
But you shouldn't have to. You should be able to find that all within Obvio in the style.
Okay.
The style. You just play around with the padding on it
All right. I'll
and
do
the
that. Thank you.
background settings. Sure.
All right. Thank you. Enjoy. Take care.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week at the same time, 5 o'clock Eastern, Wednesday. Bye-bye.